Hey there, Budsies. Welcome back to SourceFedNERD. I'm Filup Molina, and I'm like halfway back from death.
And I'm Whitney Moore. I've always got one foot in the grave.
Have you guys heard of the Marvel villain problem? And more importantly, do you think the creators of Marvel films have heard of the Marvel villain problem? If so, why haven't they done anything about it? Turns out, we got an answer.
Heads up, by the way, mild spoilers for the MCU throughout this video, but let's go ahead and explain what this villain problem really is. If you take a look back at each Marvel movie release, while none of these films have yet been rated poorly.
None of them have been rated poorly?
Yeah, even The Incredible Hulk and Thor: The Dark World have passing grades, so each one of these releases has done well for them critically. But because society doesn't like having nice things, each film has its own naysayers too, often repeating the same critique. Yeah, the movie was dope, but the villain was weak or forgettable, or their plan was dumb, or they didn't actually affect the movie in any real way.
So that's what people call the Marvel villain problem. The stories have nailed it more than a few times, but the villains don't really make an impact on the viewer, and they barely even leave an impact on the hero. Most recently, you heard this about Caecilius in the Doctor Strange movie, and when you realize, hey, there are actually barely any Caecilius scenes in that movie. In fact, Doctor Strange doesn't even know or care who he is for most of the movie, then yeah, it's not hard to see what people mean. Marvel villains aren't really memorable. Quick, what's this guy's name?
Ugh, who cares? The exception to this is Marvel TV. Filup and I both constantly talk about Kilgrave, and it's probably getting unhealthy just how much we are like obsessed with him.
He's so charming.
Yeah, it's almost like he's got some sort of mind control that makes us love him. Weird. But also, Wilson Fisk, aka the King of Pin, is one of the most developed villains in any superhero property. And this makes sense because Netflix shows spend almost half of their seasons developing their villains' motivations and backstories.
Also, real quick, I'm gonna defend Doctor Strange, even though I called it out a second ago, in that they really spent the first movie more developing the villain for the next movie. And it really will hurt when Strange's mentor turns on him. So maybe they're just doing the best they can.
Yeah, but also, why can't they just develop a villain within a single film? One of the greatest superhero movies of all time, The Dark Knight, managed such a powerful villain that it won Heath Ledger a posthumous Academy Award.
And before you say, well, yeah, that movie's real freaking long and has plenty of time to dive into the Joker's backstory, I'll remind you, they actually never define his backstory. They just give him a real clear motivation of wanting chaos for the city, and you know what? The guy's only on screen for 33 minutes. That's like 20% of that movie.
Oh, damn. But point made. So if this problem has existed since the first Marvel films, early Iron Man, Hulk, and are still happening in even their most recent films, so 14 movies later, why hasn't Marvel fixed their villain problem?
Actually, now we finally have an answer directly from the god of the MCU, Supreme Leader Kevin Feige.
Yes.
And yeah, he's heard of this problem, and he actually doesn't think it's a bad thing.
When Kevin Feige was talking about Guardians of the Galaxy 2 with a bunch of big old news outlets.
Not us, because we're fake news.
That's right. Fake news. He addressed this straight on. Feige said, a big criticism of ours is that we focus on the heroes more than the villains. I think that's probably true. He calls out Ronan from Guardians of the Galaxy 1 as an example of what others call a weak villain. Ronan's great. Lee Pace did an awesome job, absolutely serves it, but certainly was there to go up against our heroes and give our heroes a reason for coming together.
He also calls out Loki, despite Loki being one of the better villains actually, as really just being there to serve the needs of Thor as a character. And this is way more obvious when he admits that Baron Zemo is just there to stir the conflict between Iron Man and Cap.
Yeah, and he flat out admits it's not coming to an end soon because the upcoming Guardians 2 has two villains, Aisha and Taserface, who also serve the needs of the plot and aren't really developed as their own deal. He actually implies that they'll be smaller in their ambitions than Ronan was.
So far this sounds like Feige is just bitching about his own movies, but actually his point is that Marvel films are about the hero and the journey the hero goes on. They don't actually see it as their duty to develop a villain, when according to them, the point of the villain is to serve as motivation for the hero to do whatever he's gotta do, not to have their own motivation.
And when you remember that DC has actually put a lot of work into their villains.
Like, way too much work into some of the villains.
And is often critiqued for having heroes that we don't really care about, then yeah, maybe Marvel is right. Why mess with a good thing?
Right, except I'm sorry, Daddy Feige, but I respectfully disagree.
Oh, looks like I have time for coffee. I'll see you later.
Okay, I think focusing on heroes is smart, but I think the real reason Marvel doesn't give a stronger foundation to their villains is because they're afraid of a longer runtime that could cost them at the box office. And they'd rather add a few more scenes that make the movies oh so charming, rather than give an extra 15 minutes to explaining who this bad guy really is, why what he wants to do really matters. For example, Marvel's already shown us what a really complex villain looks like in Civil War, except it's not Baron Zemo, it's Tony Stark. You 100% understand where he's coming from. Many Many of his own actions directly caused the deaths of thousands over time. He's put his own friends in danger. And his logic to just put some limits on these gods invading our planet, hey, it kind of makes sense. Like, if you lived in that world, you might also be like, hey, if you have the ability to become a green monster that can crush a tank and squeeze out human guts like they're a little bit of toothpaste, yeah, I kind of want to know about it. Your name should probably be on some sort of list. So the fact that you'd have every right to think maybe Iron Man isn't doing the wrong thing, and that you actually hurt more for Cap because you know his antagonist used to be one of his best friends, and you believe that to be true. You're not just told that. These are all reasons why you need a good villain. The layers of storytelling actually resonate with you because they're realistic. The world is not just good and evil, black and white. That simplicity of storytelling isn't just too easy, it's a little boring. Oh, by the way, if you think my Iron Man example sucks because he had all those movies to build him up, go watch Split. It's not a perfect film, but it's less than 2 hours and it develops a protagonist and antagonist at the same exact time. And while the plot deals with their conflict, things get really interesting when you realize what they have in common. Hey Marvel, you have some of the best people in the world working on your movies. That complexity is within your reach, and I expect you to challenge yourselves and go for it.
I mean, they are.
What?
Well, not yet, but one ray of hope from that talk with Feige, he said that Infinity War might be an exception to the villain rule they've established. Apparently there are so many different heroes in that movie that they kind of see Thanos as the main character.
That actually sounds amazing.
Yeah, but hey, nice rant anyways, good job.
Thank you.
I feel ya, every property needs a good villain. Like, you know who doesn't have a villain problem? SourceFed. You may not know this, but there's a guy named Steven Suptic. Am I saying that right?
It's Stefan?
Oh yeah, right. Stefan Suptic. And man, that guy is out to get us. He steals our computer chargers, he got everybody sick, and remember that time he made us all look at that gross cockroach?
Dude, Stefan needs to be stopped.
Shh! Don't let him hear you.
Oh, don't worry, he's in Iceland doing who knows what. Something evil, I bet.
That's exactly what he wants you to think. Man, that guy is a genius.
And yet he's still like surprisingly dumb sometimes. Oh, he's such a complex villain.
Yeah, and his motivation is so clear. He was born with a full-size hairless chicken body and ridiculed for his entire life.
Then the straw that broke the chicken boy's back, he was banished from YouTube for a while.
But now he's back on a mission of vengeance and weirdness.
Wow, this is all a really satisfying story. Too bad this is also 100% true. He made me touch the roach once.
Ew, no!
Yes,
really?
yes.
Ugh. Okay, what do you guys think? Does Marvel have a villain problem? Do you buy this idea that movies should only be there to show the hero's journey and the villain is just there to help that? Or do you think a hero is only as interesting as his villains are?
Also, how do you propose we stop internet terrorist Stefan Suptic? He's already shown diseases don't stop him. We need your help.
Thanks for watching. Like this video, share it around to help explain just what all this Marvel villain criticism is about, and subscribe to this channel for so much more.
And ring our bells, if you know what I mean.
We mean the bell icon. Bye.
See ya.
Hazmat suit carrying what I can only describe as a sci-fi cattle prod / flamethrower. Hey, they whipped out those batons first. He was just defending himself.
Nice one.
Thank you.